Jesus, it's been a month and this guy is still on this Orwell shit? Well, yeah, kinda. Because when times have indeed turned Orwellian, well, there's never a lack of quotes from this guy. Eric Blair left us quite the body of wisdom. This one in particular, in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. You see, he left this behind for times where, the leader of one of the major nations in the free world, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. Well, okay, to call New Zealand a major nation is a bit of a stretch. But again, they were the example. They were the team that took point in all of the lockdowns. 0 people in, 0 people out, everybody on lockdown, 100% mask mandates. And of course, that's been turned on its head. But once it started getting turned on its head and people started looking into it from themselves, well, little Miss Ardern stepped out here. We will continue to be your single source of truth. This is what happens when you say the quiet part out loud. We will continue to be your single source of truth. And unless you hear it from us, it is not the truth. Feel free to look up that quote for yourself, by the way. I am neither paraphrasing nor quoting out of context. This silly bitch said the quiet part out loud. What did we hear from Orwell? In a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. And now the party, big sister in this case, declares that they have a monopoly on the truth. It's funny how that all works, you know, like they're always telling us how that inflammatory, hateful, right-wing rhetoric is going to set off an extremist to do extremist things, you know, but that never works when this unelected cunt flap. I should remind you, nobody elected Kathy Hochul. Nobody. She is in that office simply by virtue of the fact that they booted Cuomo out of office. Not for, the logical reason like killing literally 16,000 elderly people in New York City through his policies during the COVID epidemic, but because he grabbed some chick's ass. Anyway, Hochul's running the show. And this week said that the millions of conservatives, GOP, Trump supporters that live in New York need to all get on a bus and go to Florida because they are not real New Yorkers. Now, of course, there would be no connection between that kind of rhetoric and, the sort of attacks that happened just a few weeks ago when this guy jumped on stage in broad daylight and tried to stab her Republican opponent. Now look, you guys know where I'm at on free speech. You know I'm an absolutist, and she is no more guilty for the actions of this knucklehead than AOC is guilty for the bombing in Washington State, that Trump is guilty of the El Paso Walmart shooting. Nothing. Words are words. Violence is violence. But if the media is going to report it, because they've got a monopoly on that truth thing, then they need to at least report it without a double standard. But that's not going to happen. We're well past that. In fact, they can just change it on the fly. They can just change it on the fly whenever they want. And I believe Orwell had something to say about that as well. The past was erased. The erasure was forgotten. The lie became the truth. The past was erased. Let's reach back into the past, shall we? A couple of decades back to the 80s, where this miscreant, we all, at one point or another, I know at least me and Roman, had the highest opinion of this knucklehead because he was truly speaking out against a censorious and authoritarian regime. People that tried to censor the lyrics of rock music. People that tried to tell you what you could say, who and how you could fuck. Yes, at that time, the evangelical right was the existential threat to liberty across the board, and I fought them just as hard as I'm fighting the current existential threat. Apparently D, though, he kind of lost the plot. After his still to this day impressive testimony in front of a congressional subcommittee, now that he's become part of the ruling class, he seems to have lost his enthusiasm for rebelling against censorious authoritarian regimes. In fact, he came out this week and screamed at, what was it? MAGA fascist? Let me see if I can get the quote right. Yeah, MAGA fascist. He screamed at them for co-opting his song, We're Not Gonna Take It, because that was exactly the kind of people that he was speaking out against. He seems to have forgotten, however, about this little photo op back in 2015, where he said, and I quote, "I hope that Trump turns the political establishment on its head." Maybe he even meant that at the time. I guess what he didn't mean was turned it on its head in a way that doesn't benefit me and my current left-wing bestest pals. Again, we can erase the past. It's all done on the fly. The erasure will be forgotten and the lie becomes the truth. But you know, Orwell had plenty more to say about plenty of other things that have come to light this week. Here's another great little quote of his. "Patriotism is usually stronger than class hatred and always stronger than internationalism." Well, I offer in evidence this young lady right here. Anybody? Somebody? Anybody familiar with this? Well, you wouldn't be from watching the mainstream media, because she has been identified as a right-wing extremist, Putin propagandist. This is Daria Dugina. She is the daughter of one Alexander Dugin. He is referred to in the American mainstream press as Putin's brain. He is Eastern Orthodox. He is a Russian nationalist philosopher, and his daughter was killed in a bombing, a car bombing, done by Ukrainian terrorists in an effort to kill this man. I couldn't imagine why they would have it in for the guy. I mean, outside of his anti-Ukrainianism, his fierce, devout Russian nationalism, and his penchant for brilliant quotes like this one. "Russia is not at war with Ukraine. It is driving the devil out of Ukraine. This is a geopolitical exorcism." Brother Dugin, I couldn't agree more. However, the Ukrainians, you know, the ones with the flags in everybody's profile that we're taught to get behind, they decided to bomb a car, and it was intended for him and wound up killing his daughter. But, not to be outdone, the Ukrainian press and not insignificant voices across social media that claim themselves to be independent investigative journalists have now blamed Dugin, that's right, her father, and have gone so far as to say that he offered her up in an act of ritual sacrifice. Now, I wish that I could make this shit up, but it's there, and you can find it. Google is free, and a 9-second search will tell you everything that you need to know. Yeah, that's right. Civilization is frail. In fact, so frail, a non-Orwell quote. This is from Will Durant, a historian and philosopher. "From barbarism to civilization requires a century." I would amend that to several centuries in the case of Western civilization. "From civilization to barbarism needs but a day." We could say that for, say, Ukraine, and the barbarism on display there, that's been on display there since 2014, after Maidan unleashed on the Russian civilians there in the Donbass region. We could say that for the political left in this country that have never built shit but will look the other way while random militants burn down our fucking cities. Or we could even say that for, say, the leftist regime currently in control after this little action. Yeah, that's outside of a place called Mar-a-Lago. You may have heard of it. It is the most of the time home to our former president, and it was raided by the FBI under the most specious of grounds last week. Now, you guys know me well enough to know that I do not deify Darth Cheeto. I will be the first person to call him out when he makes mistakes. And in fact, other people who are even further left, people like Glenn Greenwald, people like Matt Taibbi, we find ourselves on the same side as this one. If this was legit, you had better goddamn well have something to show for it. Because if not, this is the most egregious overreach of a regime literally since the Revolutionary War, since that regime is so fond of drawing Civil War analogies, however specious. But again, we come back to Orwell. People sleep peaceably in their beds at night only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. One of my favorite Orwell quotes, by the way, and one of the most topical considering what is going on, because it's clear that we have rough men on both sides, and they're creeping up, and they're creeping up, and becoming more and more polarized, more and more militant, and more dug in like an Alabama tick. So it's time for each one of you now, boys and girls, to make the decision as to whether you're going to be one of those rough men or keep sleeping peaceably in your beds and letting those at the top decide what is the truth for you. Been a while, fellas. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and nobody else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and certainly, cannot stress this enough, certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are spewed out of this toothless fucking mouth, and they are guaranteed to choke you with a big fat dose of turgid, thorny truth cock. Been a month, boys and girls. Welcome back. It is time once again for the Sunday sermon. Did I miss anything while I was gone? Sorry, folks. I've been a little busy. Appreciate your patience and tolerance. Everybody back in for the drum roll, please. Same old Reverend. A little more haggard, a little more world weary, but bringing it back, and you guys may recognize the surroundings. We are coming to you live from the command center level of the BART bunker in beautiful Spokane, Washington, where I will be convalescing. Convalescing is my college word. I got like 3 of those. I'll be here for 6 to 8 weeks of recovery, 6 to 8 weeks of semi-vacation. It's like vacation, but with pain, which still isn't that bad when you really think about it. I'm going to give a quick shout out to everybody, man. We're going to do a little rundown here, catch a roll call, see who's back for the reboot, relaunch broadcast of the Sunday sermon. Of course, we've got Roman and his lovely wife Carrie. We've got the original sinner sister Emily on board, and going to be getting to you about that meetup. I'm going to be doing a little promo on that coming up here in a little bit. Let's see who else we got on board. Oh my goodness, can we be so fortunate? Brother Joel, good to see you. Let me see who else, and of course Carrie on board. David, hey, I'm healing up. I'm going to get into all that stuff here in a little bit. I'll tell you about the whole process. It's been an entertaining little journey, as one would expect. Brother Mike on board. Good to see you, my friend, as always. Going to see you in about a month down here on that little get-together, it's looking like. Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm, I knew I could count on you. What do we got? Swapping phones, I'm here. Brother Ryan. Missed you, brother. And even though we're a month gone, I'm still doing a rabbit hole. One of the 4 that we discussed over the weeks that I was out, man. Good to have you. Let me see who else. Oh, my goodness, my bionic brother. Love you, Sonny. Love you. Good to see you. Oh my goodness, man! Yeah, it's been an adventure. I got replacement parts now. I feel a little bit like the Terminator. They showed me the thing, not immediately before they put it in, but yeah, it's nice little titanium and smooth and slick, and I'm feeling all kinds of special. I'll be back. Yeah, dude, you see me start spewing sound bites from old Schwarzenegger action films, might be a problem. Who else we got on board? The treasure monk himself, Brother Jeff Truitt. Good to see you, my friend. By the way, you guys need to check out his YouTube channel. If you guys are watching on YouTube, bounce over after the sermon and check out Jeff's channel, Treasure Monk. We go all the way back to grade school, man. A lot of history there. We got Tom on board. Good to see you. I'll be in Spokane at the end of September. Give me a little bit of heads up, Tom. I would love to meet up with you. Hondo Way, glad you're back, bud. Hey, man, I do what I can, man. I do what I can. Been a rough little month. Will there be live pillaging of the drug encampment? Not this week. Not this week. I gotta come up with full plausible deniability before we can do any of that stuff. Good Lord, man, that homeless camp has gotten ridiculous since I've been out. And it just gets worse by the day. But we have installed some additional security measures around the bunker, and we got things secured. I am looking into the legalities of razor wire. By the way, I have found a distributor where you can buy it by the pallet, and oddly enough, man, razor wire isn't nearly as expensive as you would think it would be, or at least what I would have thought. You know, like I would have thought that like, you know, military grade razor wire would have been way more expensive than it actually is. But I actually found a pretty decent source online. And we're talking to neighbors. We're going to be able to buy it by the pallet, and I'm very serious about this. You guys know that I have a sense of humor, and I do get a little hyperbolic from time to time. But in this particular instance, I am 100% on the level with that. We are looking into a supplier for razor wire, and because this particular part of Spokane is technically zoned commercial, the legalities are a little foggy, and we want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. But razor wire is legal where I'm at on the property. It is absolutely legal on the property. Where and how we place it is the only thing that's still sort of up in the air right now. My understanding is that we've got to raise the fence height up to at least 6 feet, which it is in some parts and needs to be around the rest of the property anyway. But once we get it up to 6 feet, we can put razor wire on top of it. We could lay the South African style, you know, the long triple lengths of it. Look into your history in pre-ANC South Africa, where, you know, Evil Whitey was still running the show over there. They had like rapid deployment rigs where they would just like set out a post that had like 3 coils of razor wire, and they would drive the van and just deploy it, and it was like insta perimeter. We could actually do something like that right now. There's no law preventing that, but anyway, we're looking into it. Don't forget the gargoyles, man. I got more gargoyles than I know what to do with, man. You know, that's gonna ward off the evil spirits. The important question is, can you hang it between trees? What, the razor wire or the homeless people, Tom? You know, phrasing is important here. Thanks again to Roman. Yeah, you guys, give us some likes, and let's bump this up in the algorithm. Couple of sponsor shout outs really quick, since we were on Roman. First of all, to opiumtales.com, Roman and his lovely wife Carrie, and Roxy and Allie, and the bevy of beautiful women over there at opiumtales.com. They are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Beautiful watercolors of beautiful naked women and testosterone driven commentary. What's not to like? And of course, my Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison, Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. And now that I am back in Spokane, I will be dashing up to see them one of these Thursdays when they've got the long ship, the big smoker truck, out on display, open for business down the road here off of Sprague. So I am looking forward to that. It's good to be back in Spokane. Inauspicious circumstances. You know what I'm going to do? I've heard enough of you and beautiful dancing girls. Brother Jeff, don't hate, man, don't hate. That is one thing that Jeff and probably a lot of you out there have never been able to figure out, is how this snaggletooth, well, really toothless, you know, fat aging cripple is able to so consistently be surrounded by beautiful women, both in his personal life and in his professional life. Well, it's not my money and it's not my charm, so I'll let the rest of you do the math. And a couple of you on board here actually know that for a fact. It's the sense of humor. The sense of humor. See, that's, yes, what we keep hearing is so terribly important. Anyway, yeah. I don't know, guys. Let's take a quick opinion poll. I'm going to do the rabbit hole first. Hush. You hush. I'm gonna do the rabbit hole first, and we're gonna knock that out. And while I am doing the rabbit hole, if you guys want to, yeah, Greg, how you been? By the way, dude, the pictures of those coins, bro, I am sick fucking jealous. I will probably be making you an offer on one of those before the thing is over with. Oh yeah, it truly is a sense of humor. Thank you for clearing that up, Emmy. I appreciate it. I'm going to do the rabbit hole. We're going to knock that out. And while I'm doing the rabbit hole, I'm going to take an informal poll over here in the comments. You guys drop whether or not you want me to discuss the political stuff first and then leave plenty of time for the personal shit at the end, or whether you want me to knock the personal stuff out first and then plenty of shit save the political shit for the end. Just whichever you want first, personal or political, just leave it over here in the comments. And in the meantime, we are going to jump down Ryan's rabbit hole. Now, I'm back in Spokane and I do not have the full soundboard, so you're just going to have to imagine the thunderous roar of applause back behind me because I don't have the actual sound effect. Hey, thunderous roar of applause. You guys know about Ryan's rabbit hole. Even you guys, come on, we haven't been gone that long. Every week, because Ryan and I both have bonded over the fact that we are both repositories of useless information, we take a little trip down the rabbit hole. Sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it's historical, sometimes it's conspiratorial, but usually it'll be outside the box for at least half of you guys. Stuff that you've never looked into. It's a little poke into the bread oven, a little departure from the political madness and the social commentary. Just a little something that you can take and go, this is something that I haven't looked into, and maybe kind of expand your worldview a little bit. Maybe open your eyes, turn you on to some phenomena or some particular historical item or conspiracy theory that you had never heard of before, and it will give you something to do with your spare time for the rest of the week. This week, and I had to pick from 4 because, again, it's been 4 weeks since I've done a sermon, and Ryan and I have stayed in contact consistently through that period, and we've floated the ideas that we always float, but I had to pick one of 4, and we're going to roll with this one, and that is, drum roll please, boom, Stanley Kubrick and the moon landing conspiracy. Now, you guys who are film fans, Stanley Kubrick needs no introduction. You guys who are Reverend Bart fans know that Stanley Kubrick is big dog director with me. Love the man, love his work, love his fucking legacy, love every weirdo fucking Hollywood anecdote I've ever heard about the man. Love fucking Stanley Kubrick and all of his massive body of cinematic work. However, something you may not know about Mr. Stanley, and it is a connection involving his potential. Now, again, this is a conspiracy theory. I leave it to you. I neither endorse nor reject nor debunk nor really offer any sort of opinion. As I am with most conspiracies nowadays, it's one of those things, I will entertain it. The mark of a high intellect is to be able to entertain an idea without necessarily embracing it. And that is where I am at with the conspiracy crowd right now. You guys who have known me for years know that it was not always that way, and I would snag any conspiracy that came down the pike. I'm a little more discerning in my old, bitter age. But Stanley Kubrick, it is said, and it is also said that he left a breadcrumb trail, was recruited to fake the moon landings. Now, I'm going to give you one particular source, entertainment.ie, and the name of the one particular article, but please, just because I'm offering this up as a compendium, do not stop there. I want you to dig deeper, because there were literally hundreds of leads that popped up when I Googled Stanley Kubrick 237 moon landing conspiracy. There were hundreds of results that ripped off. I grabbed this one because it was one of the top 6, and it was a pretty well thought out compendium. And the name of the article is Stanley Kubrick, The Shining, and the Moon Landing Conspiracy Theory. This will be a little dip of your toe down that rabbit hole. But keep in mind, Hollywood often drops hints about things that we find out later is actually going on. And you will remember, it wasn't that long after the actual moon landings that one of the Bond films had Bond hopping into a moon buggy and racing off of a movie set. And it wasn't but a few years after the moon landings that the film Capricorn 1 came out, which basically depicted we were going to send men to Mars, but they figured out they couldn't do it, so they decided to fake the whole thing. And once the astronauts in question decided to go public, they were going to kill them all. It starred a young O.J. Simpson. Yeah, it's funny how one thing leads to another. In any case, I want you guys to go down this hole because there are a number of scenes in The Shining, particularly the first one where Danny is outside of room 237 and the tennis ball comes bouncing up to him. I want you to take a look. In that scene, he is wearing a blue sweater with the Apollo mission on it, right? It's one of those knitted sweaters from that era. Some of you may have one of these in your attic. The floor, that god-awful fucking carpet, actually looks to be an overhead aerial view of the Cape Canaveral launch area. And again, there are any number of little breadcrumbs that Kubrick, if we believe the theory, that Kubrick left to let you know that, hey, I got recruited for my skill as a filmmaker. Now, keep in mind, before the moon landing, we had what from Kubrick? 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? We all remember that, right? The big, I'll cap my liquid enthusiasm bottle. We'll do a little 2001 enactment, right? You ready? Dum dum ba 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 boom 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 boom. Yeah, we remember the tumbling monolith and everything that was done there. Well, a lot of that involved scenes on, well, what we didn't know at the time, what the lunar surface looked like. So it stands to reason that if they were going to recruit a famous filmmaker, a skilled filmmaker, to fake such a thing, it does stand to reason that it would be Kubrick, that Kubrick would be the guy to get the nod. In any case, that is your rabbit hole for the week. I want you to go up and Google or whatever search engine you use, because I mean we're really trying to get Google out of our lives, aren't we? We can't all be the shining example that Dan Bongino is with his effectiveness and going out and creating our own platforms. And I'm not slagging Bongino, by the way. That's genuine fucking respect for what he's done. But whatever search engine you're using, your terms are going to be Stanley Kubrick 237 moon landing. Go. That is your rabbit hole for the week. Enjoy. Some of the stuff that you're going to find is going to be absolute nut job. Some of the stuff that you're going to find is going to be so fucking obvious to you that you're going to be like, oh my God, how did I miss that? Oh my God, how did I miss that? As is the case with most conspiracies, and that's really where I'm at with the conspiracy movement right now. Just briefly, sidebar, 9/11, right. 9/11 conspiracy, a lot of that stuff is complete nut jobbery. David Icke, fucking reptilian vampire, lizard, royal family, just crap, right? Some of it, you really kind of have to nod and go, yeah, you could definitely make a case for that. The one thing, whether we're talking about 9/11 or Oklahoma City or the COVID epidemic or back to the moon landing, the one thing that you know always, 100% of the time, anybody's speculation is as good as anybody else's speculation. The one thing that you can be assured of is that the official story is always bullshit. Bullshit with elements of truth sprinkled in, but bullshit. Okay? So, speculate away. Go down that rabbit hole. Ryan, thank you once again for the inspiration to go and do that. Yeah, hangar. It was actually hangar 18 at Wright Patterson. Not to piss on your post there, Joel, and that might have been a typo. Quick personal update, and then get to the craziness. Okay, personal. I'd, I'd, I'd hope a guy hung like a tuna can would be funny. Maybe not a tuna can, man. Maybe not a tuna can. Jesus, bro. I mean, yeah, there's a definite girth to length discrepancy, but I wouldn't say tuna can. Maybe fucking, maybe the jackmat cans they used to give you when you were in prison. But hey, tuna, come on, man. Give me a little credit. Okay, so personal. That seems to be the. Yes, okay, that seems to be the consensus. We're going to do the personal stuff first. Obviously, there were a number of things. I had stuff to handle here in Spokane, and then it was just a cascade of crises, one right after the other, some of which shook my physical health, some of which shook my psychological well-being. It's we just passed a year. We just passed a year of the death of Houston MMA legend and my best friend of 30 years, Saul Solis. We just hit the year mark in his passing. That's going to be rough, I think, for the rest of my life. I lost another dear friend of mine. You guys who have followed my personal page for any length of time, you know about my swole mate, Austin Cost. He was actually not just my swole mate, he was my roommate here at the bunker for a number of years. He was my brother. Obviously, we didn't have the depth of bond that me and Saul did because we didn't have that many years, you know what I mean? But we did have, we did have a decade there, or damn near a decade, 9 years, and we were really, really tight. He passed away tragically from an overdose. It was not an intentional overdose down in Vegas. Best details are that he scored some pills, thinking that they were legit, Vicodin, Lortab, whatever. Turns out they were pressed fentanyl, and he took the same dose that he would have, that both of us took, on days where the training that we were doing together left our body in wreckage. You could eat 2 or 3 Lortab or 2 or 3 Vicodin. Anyway, he ate 2 or 3, and it turned out that they were pressed fentanyl. And his fiance tragically found him in the driveway the following morning. So that was a shot. Charlie, of course, going into the home stretch of her second round of chemo and her microwave ablation. I've shared a lot of that with you before, without getting into really, really super intimate detail. Basically, the stuff that is in her pelvic bones, we both agreed that full body radiation was out. So they do a procedure which is called microwave ablation, where they drill into the bone to the affected area, run a wire down there, and run microwave frequency radiation down that wire. So the area of effect is much more localized and much more centralized. And so, of course, Charlie going through that over the past couple of weeks. David, I'm getting to the hip. Buddy. I'm getting there. But then, barely a week after the death of my bro Austin Cost, and a week before the anniversary of Brother Saul's death, I got hit quite out of the blue with news of the death of my father. You guys who have followed me here and seen the tribute that I do to him every year on Father's Day, you guys who have followed my personal page, but most of all, you people who are legit close personal friends of mine, you know how important my father was to me. I've said it before here, and I will continue to say it for as long as I draw breath. I own my own failings, I own my own shortcomings, but every good thing that I am as a human being, and in particular, every good thing that I am as a man, that's all from my dad. It's all from my pop. And Pop had been quietly dealing with, I'm not going to make this a stage or a platform, but it has been brought to my attention since his passing that a lot of the cardiac issues and the kidney issues that it was very sudden onset. My dad's always been a rock. He's always been in stellar health. He's always been active, even into his older years. And shortly after the second Pfizer jab, well, then came the cardiac problems, and then came the kidney problems, and they came on quick and they came on hard, and put him in a position where he was going to be looking at being dependent on other people. That was the same thing that killed his mother. His mother, my grandmother, we called her Nanny, Grandmother Stewart, the strongest woman I've ever known. She started raising 3 kids. Her husband was a lumberjack on the Joyce Kimmel Forest, died of gangrene as a complication from a rattlesnake bite. One of the biggest timber rattlers they'd ever caught. A little Stewart family lore here. One of the biggest eastern diamondbacks they'd ever fucking caught in that part of the world. But it bit my grandfather. My father at the time was only 2 years old. Gangrene set in, killed my grandfather, and my grandmother, Nanny, Lois Stewart, was raising 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, literally in a cabin, literally in a mountain cabin with an outhouse in western North Carolina. True fucking story. She came out of them thar hills up yonder in the holler and moved to the big city. Hello, Donna. Nice to see you on board. She moved to the big city of Charlotte, North Carolina, to a little house on Robinson Road because they were recruiting operators for what at the time was Southern Bell. Later became part of the whole AT&T conglomerate. Weird how that works because the Bell system was that's political shit. I'm gonna leave it. But she was an operator for Southern Bell, and after she moved to the big city of Charlotte, she raised those 3 kids, including my father, on a little house off of Robinson Road there in Charlotte. My dad, star athlete, he set a shot put record in the state of North Carolina in the late 1950s that basically remained on the books until about the mid 1980s. Again, every good thing that I am as a man, I owe to my dad, and he passed. It rocked me. It substantially rocked me. It gutted me on a whole lot of levels, particularly with the stuff that I've found out since then. But the one thing that I do take solace in, that I can say is that my dad and I, we did not leave anything on the table. There was no unresolved business. He knew how much I loved him, and I knew how much he loved me and how proud he was of the things that I've done in my life. So yeah, it was definitely a gut punch. It was unexpected, and going to see family there in Tennessee, family that came up from the Carolinas to Tennessee for the funeral and the services, seeing my stepmom Sharon. It was healing. It was healing. It was powerful. It was overall, it was a very good thing. But yeah, it sort of took me out of commission. So I've been out of circulation for a few weeks behind that. I nearly did one last week immediately post-surgery, but mentally I just wasn't there yet. And I appreciate y'all's understanding with that kind of stuff, because if you know me, I'm not one to half-ass anything. So if I'm gonna bring something, and again, there's also got to be the authenticity, and I wasn't far enough removed from everything that was going on a personal level to accord the right amount of energy to the shit that was going on a national and international level. It's easy to fucking post a bullshit Facebook thread and then not engage. That's easy. You can do that. And I do all the fucking time. That's easy. That doesn't require any effort or any commitment. But for me to get on here and turn on this fucking camera and have something to offer you guys that's going to be worth watching, that's going to be worth the expenditure of an hour or two, I couldn't do that in good conscience if my head wasn't 100% into it. So I needed that extra week after the 3 that I'd already taken. I appreciate y'all's patience with that. And the final thing on a personal level, so rest in peace to my father, Fred Bryce Stewart. If anything that I've ever done or said or offered to you guys has affected your life in a positive way, and you are a person of faith, just say a little prayer of thanks to my dad for being the man that he was. So, thanks, Pop. Now, last thing on a personal level, I would stand up and start showing you my scars and stuff, but that's gonna be problematic. But not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before, August the 18th, I had a long overdue hip replacement surgery. You guys that have known me, you guys that have been friends of mine for a long fucking time, you know how long I've been suffering with this jacked up hip. It has been literally bone on bone for at least 8 years, approximating 9 years, more closely approximating 9 years, but at least 8 years. That hip has been bone on bone. And as of August the 18th, thank you, my friend. Thank you, Bear. As of August the 18th, I finally got it worked on. I have been with the nameless company. Again, definitely not employers. Rather than take the risk of being doxxed, not like it would fucking do any good. Blue collar labor, so who cares? But because I've been with this company, and because it is a good company, and because they are treating me really well, and because I am making that crane money, thanks to the doors that were open for Ryan, and working for a company that offers good insurance, I was finally in a position where I said, okay, fuck it, we're going to do this. So over the course of the last year that I've been there in that little town in Primeville, Oregon, which I dearly miss, by the way, I fucking love that little Central Oregon town and everything about the state of Oregon, except for the Californicated, debauched fucking Kate Brown regime. Over the course of that year, I've had a number of procedures done. Finishing out the work that started down in Texas, so getting my spine taken care of. I had a radio frequency ablation. They burned 8 total nerves along my lumbar spine, 2 on each side, L2, 3, 4, and 5. Burned the nerves, and so that increased my mobility and helped with the pain a lot. And now I have gotten the hip replaced. The hip replacement came courtesy of a surgeon by the name of Dr. Aaron Finter. Now, I, again, have to make the disclaimer. The opinions expressed by the Reverend do not reflect those of Dr. Finter. In fact, I wouldn't put it past one of these Antifa maggots to go, look, man, this is the guy that you worked on. You did surgery on this guy. You're a fucking Nazi. Me. Because that's the kind of fucking, that's the kind of children we're fucking dealing with. But I feel the need, in spite of the risk of that, to sing Dr. Finter's praises, not only because she did a phenomenal job on that surgery, but because she's just an all-around badass. When I was doing my pre-surgery homework and vetting on Dr. Finter, what I found out is that she has quite the fucking resume. Orthopedic surgery, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I did not know it until I started doing the homework, but orthopedic surgery is about a 90% man's game, because you're having to take big, semi-well muscled, fire plug built musculatures like this and dislocate joints and shit. That's usually you want big masculine he-men to do that kind of thing. So everything that Dr. Finter did, she had to work 3 times as hard as her male counterparts to do that. And that is not a nod to fucking third wave feminism and the pay discrepancy of black. You guys know better than that. I am giving legit props to a legit fucking badass. She had to work 3 times as hard, and yet was such a badass that she wound up doing a fellowship at the fucking Mayo Clinic. Now, you non-medical guys might not realize exactly what a holy fuck moment that is. Yeah, she did a fellowship at fucking Mayo. So total badass. And I told her that in our first meeting, that I fucking felt honored and privileged to have her working on me. The closest thing I could find to a complaint on Dr. Finter is that some of the nurses that had worked with her as assistants said that she was a bitch. And you know what I said to Dr. Finter about that? I said, that is exactly the bitch that I want cutting on me, because that means that she takes no prisoners, she wants the shit done her way, and she's not fucking settling for anybody else's sniveling bullshit. That, to me, is a badass. That badass cut me open, did an anterior, if you guys have, I don't have anything to compare it to personally because I've only had one hip replaced and it's the only major surgery I've had in my fucking life. So I'm really not the go-to authority. All I can speak to is my experience. I hear that the lateral approach is fucking murder and that the anterior approach, which is what we did with me coming in through the front, is the way to get it done if you can do it. And that's what we did. And literally from the spinal block to me being rolled out, stitched up, 90 fucking minutes. Yeah, Dr. Finter is a badass. And my illustrious, lovely wife, Miss Charlie, got offered a job while we were sitting there. Now, I don't think she'll be taking that because I'm not going to be in Oregon anymore. But if I find myself back in Oregon, please, employer gods, if you are hearing me, stick me back in that little Central Oregon place and let me go back to Prineville. That would be an ideal gig for her. So that's where it's at. For those of you who are asking with regard to Charlie, her health is fantastic, or as well as could be expected, having gone through 2 rounds of chemo. She is up and about. Her incisions are healed. She is here with me at least for the next few days. She's been here for the last week and a half. She'll be here through the latter part of this week with me, and we're sort of having a co-recovery together. When she gets back to Texas, we will find out how her microwave ablation worked out. Hopefully we get the all clear. But all of you guys, fuck what I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with shit that was overdue. She is dealing with some serious shit with the cancer and whatnot. All of you guys who have offered your prayers and your well wishes and every good thing that you guys have offered over the course of this madness, I appreciate each and every one of you. There has just been an outpouring of support from my wife, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for every one of y'all, and I'm thankful for the resiliency of my wife to be able to hold up as well as she has through this whole thing. But with any luck, we are at the ass end of it. With any luck, the cancer is done. So we are waiting on confirmation for that. We got one more checkup that she's got to do when she gets back to Texas at the end of this week, and then we'll know something. But right now, everything is looking good. For the 2 of you that have asked about how the recovery is going so far with the hip, I will say that right now, post-surgery, even with the pain still being within basically a week post surgery, the pain, I've literally had worse pain on just regular days before the surgery with the bone and shit grinding. It feels smooth, man. I feel that recovery day by day. I feel the function coming back, and I'm coming along great. Do want to share one amusing little story. This one includes both myself and the wife. I had rented a car in Spokane. I got to the rental car counter. I will spare you the full story on that, but the guy was kind of a dick and nearly Robo Rev nearly wound up in a fist fight. This was the day before surgery when I had to go back to Bend, Oregon. Again, all of my procedures and stuff have been down in Oregon, and now that part of the contract ran out, and I was back in Spokane doing local work for the same company. So I had to go back down to Bend. I was going to pick up Charlie at the Redmond, Oregon airport. I had planned on renting a car with things like, air conditioning and an automatic transmission for the journey there and the journey back. The dude at the rental car counter managed to completely fuck my day. I wanted desperately to jump the counter and strangle the shit out of him, but I realized in the moment that there was nothing that I could do that was going to assist the situation. So in any case, because of the rental car shortage and other factors, I was unable to rent a car from any of the other people there because they simply didn't have one to rent. And this cocksucker wrecked the one that I had scheduled a month in advance. Yeah, Bart planning ahead. Who would have thunk it? In any case, I drove Black Betty, my Subaru, with a 5-speed all the way down to Oregon. Picked up my wife at the airport. I got to see some of my buddies from the job site down there in Oregon night before surgery. We go in, surgery happens, I'm coming out. They're banging me full of Dilaudid all day, and I got a head full of painkillers, and they finally release me like late that afternoon. And I wait for Charlie to come around. And I sit there in a wheelchair with this lovely little Filipina nurse behind me, and 15 minutes goes by and Charlie's not there, and 20 minutes goes by and Charlie's not there. So I start listening, and I hear Betty fire up and then choke off, and fire up and then choke off, and I'm like, oh no. Now, in all fairness to my wife, Betty is a temperamental girl with regard to that 5-speed, and there is also what I call the supplemental anti-theft system that I left in place. The C-clamps that hold the ball in the socket for the shifter, there is no snap ring, there is no O-ring holding that in place, and it is a supplemental anti-theft device. It's a little trick. You have to push down on the gear shift as you're shifting, or else that ball comes out of the socket, the shifter pops out of gear. Basically just for the sake of, if we get a car thief that does actually know how to drive a standard, he's going to throw that shifter one time and now you got a fucking paperweight. That's a thing with my car. I had explained that to Charlie, but she was not able to generate the appropriate amount of downward pressure on the shifter. The thing kept popping out. In any case, long story short, I wound up driving myself with my clutch foot, my clutch leg having a freshly surgically replaced hip. We drove to a motel where we picked up about 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and then I drove myself and Miss Charlie we lit out at about 2 o'clock in the morning because I was not going to deal with the daytime heat. We lit out at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we drove from Bend, Oregon, all the way back to Spokane, Washington. Ordinarily a 6-hour drive, but we stopped every hour and a half, 2 hours-ish, so I could get out and do my exercises and stretch and get the blood going so stiffness wasn't setting in and everything. But yeah, basically drove myself from Bend, Oregon, all the way back to Spokane on a freshly replaced hip. So that was entertaining. So yeah, that should catch you guys up to speed on everything that is going on a personal level. Now, as far as the rest of it, it's a little jumbled. we're just going to see where it goes, man. We're going to see where it goes. I got the important bits, and the important bit was to jump back in here and get something done. Because I've been out of action for too long here. I've missed doing this. You guys know that this is, for all intents and purposes, this is my therapy. And I've been in bad need of therapy. Of course, there's a couple of you out there right now, and I can fucking hear you going, oh, dude, yeah, you're definitely in need of therapy, bro. It's been that way for fucking decades. Yeah, haha. Very funny. Very funny. Way to take the low-hanging fruit, fuckbag. So that's where we're at. In any case, hopefully that has caught everybody up to speed on what is going on Planet Bart, what is going on with regards to Miss Charlie. Yeah, Dennis, yeah, fucker. What's going on Planet Bart, what's going on with Miss Charlie, and how things are across the board. So I will be here 6 to 8 weeks is what they have offered for recovery. I think it'll go a little bit quicker than that, but depending on, I'm not gonna press it. I'm not taking any fucking chances. I'm not pulling the typical Bart thing where it's yeah, well, fuck it, man. It's been 2 weeks. I can jump back under a fucking 400-pound squat. Yeah, I'll be great. No. We're not doing that this time because you guys know this surgery is long fucking overdue, and I've been walking with that catastrophic, abjectly painful limp for too fucking long to risk it on stupid shit. I'm going to take the full amount of time. I'm going to make a full 100% recovery before I go testing this shit. That is a fact. That is my word to all of you, particularly to Miss Charlie. But if you guys are friends with Charlie, you can ask her. I have been largely behaving. So, yeah, I'm going to take the time. I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to make sure it is a full and complete and 100% healthy recovery, up to spec and up to standard. Mike was ready at 6 weeks. By the way, are you still in compression hose? Emily, oddly enough, I have not used compression hose one single time. Not at all. They were not given to me. They were not prescribed to me. They were not even so much as recommended for me. And I talked to the doctors about that. But no compression hose whatsoever. Just been freeballing it, man. So, yeah, it's, compression, compression hose. They sound fun. Actually, I think that is the new family of Nexus 6 replicants, the pleasure model, Nexus 6 replicants. They are compression hose. You insert your tool and appendage, and they just sort of, no, that is not it. And we're not going any further down that fucking road. Yeah, that's where we're at. So, yeah, you can plan on me taking 100% of the time that is going to be necessary and making a full and complete recovery. What I will say is this, just a couple of weeks in, I can already feel a smoothness in that joint. Dr. Finter she imparted to my wife, Miss Charlie, she said that your husband has really outstanding bone development, but that the joint was, I believe the word she chose was gnarly as hell. There were osteophytes and bone spurs and just ground out parts and just overall fucking nastiness. It was horrible. A lot of people have made that assessment just looking at the images. How you were still walking around on your own power, I don't fucking know. Well, some days are better than others, you know. But anyway, there is a smoothness in that joint now. Like just walking around, limping still. I can feel the pain from the incision and the places where the muscle and shit got stretched. But there is a smoothness in the joint now that is reassuring as hell. It is a comfort in that joint, and I have ranges of motion that I have not had in easily 10 years that are back now. I can pull my left knee all the way into my chest again. straight this way. I have not been able to do that for, I mean, I haven't had that full range of motion for 10 years, but I haven't been able to do anything close to that for better than eight years. Haven't been able to do this at all. I could get just maybe close to 90 degrees, and then I had to turn out to the side and roll. I have not been able to wear a pair of boots that were not side zip tactical models in 8 years because of the way that I've had to rotate my leg just to get boots on. It's amazing, the shit that you take for granted. But anyway, I appreciate all of you guys' concern, and that is all for the personal shit. And if anybody else wants their inquiries responded to, feel free to hit me in a personal message, and that'll be that. But fuck my situation. Because my situation is going to be my situation, but the outpouring of support for Charlie, I apologize for the sparseness of the information, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself with regard to that stuff. Not that I don't want to jinx it, but it's just that kind of stuff. I'll put my own shit out on public display, right? But you guys will notice this about Charlie. I try to keep her out of the spotlight as much as possible because I don't want her necessarily connected to the rolling disaster show that is Planet Bart. It is already too much to ask that a woman like that sticks around and stays by my side and supports me. I am not going to exacerbate that further by putting her out on public display to where my actions are reflective of her thoughts or start bleeding over into her personal life. So when I give that information, it's because people have asked for it, and people have asked for it as a result of genuine concern and the outpouring of support that has come since the situation has become public. So thank you all for that. And that's going to wrap it up for the personal stuff, guys. Now we're going to get into one last little thing. Saturday, September 17th of this year, 2 o'clock Pacific. 2 o'clock Pacific. You guys do your own time zone homework on that. The organized by the original Center Sister herself, Miss Emmy, Revs Rangers and Center Sisters Park potluck and get together. We're going to be having a little dinner down there, people. Friends of the Rev, if you are there and you would like to come out and have a little meet and greet, we're going to be doing that, and it is going to be taking place at Samuel Matthews Park in Tomball, Texas. You guys can go to Facebook and enter the search bar Reverence Rangers and Center Sisters Park potluck and get together at Samuel Matthews Park, and that will be under Emily's auspices, and that's what we're going to be doing. So we will be there for the get together. I am making arrangements right now to be there myself. So it would be good to see as many of you as possible down there if you can make it. I love y'all very much, and it's really cool that that this many people. And David, David, you're on board. You can come on out. It would be great to see you because it has been several years. Going to be gone, literally leave town a day before. Well, of course, because, God hates us sometimes, but it's cool if you guys can make it out. That will be the last of the personal stuff, and then we will get off into just a few little bullet points here that I want to cover, and we're not really going to do deep dives. This is just going to be a usual free-form rant. Just some things that have been griping on me over the course of the past 4 weeks. Believe me, guys, I have seen this stuff, and I know a lot of people. G-Dub, hey, don't worry about it, bro. Don't worry about it. You can catch the replay anytime. It's just good to have you on board. G-Dub, by the way, has done a ton to get the word out both on the issues that we discuss and on the program itself. He's brought a lot of people to the platform via Twitter, and I appreciate you. I have watched over the last 4 weeks as I am dealing with personal shit, and I'm like, dude, I really... G-Dub, it is going to be... God damn it, I just closed it up, but it's going to be September the 17th. September the 17th in Tomball. So, look into that. It's the Reverends Rangers and Cinder Sisters get together. It'll be on Emily's personal page. You can go check that out. And, dude, it would be great to see you. I've watched this stuff that's going on over the past 4 weeks, and it's fucking abhorrent. I've been jumping and shouting and screaming about the whole fucking lot of it. But again, dude, look, sometimes personal shit takes preference. I have wanted, God, there is so much screaming that I wound up doing just by myself in the fucking car, or to people who were unfortunate enough to be caught in my fucking orbit. When the shit was all coming down. So there's a lot that we just missed out on. It went through the window of the news cycle, and we're not coming back to it. Couple of little one-offs here. This was several weeks back. This was actually a few weeks back when this all fucking happened. But you guys know that one of the few things I absolutely will not abide is gaslighting. You can do a lot of things to me, man. You can call me an asshole, and you will be 100% correct in your assessment. You know, I will say that's a very astute observation, my friend. Is there anything else we can discuss? You can deride me. You can berate me. You can... Fuck, man. You can even lie about me. You can talk shit. You can talk fucking noise. You know, I've got one particular hanger-on of sorts who's been basically stalking me now for 2 fucking years because, you know, I cut his ass off and he just can't fucking let go. You know, this kind of shit doesn't really bother me. I mean, you know, obviously if I see you face to face, you might get the taste fucking slapped out of your mouth, but it's not something that I'm going to go out of my way to accord a whole lot of fucking energy to. The things that I won't abide, sanctimony is one thing that I will not fucking abide. And intellectual dishonesty is another thing that I will not fucking abide. When you goddamn well know better and you're jumping through those intellectual gymnastics just to make a point that you know to be fallacious, I absolutely will not fucking abide that shit. But gaslighting, that's another one. Who are you going to believe, the government or your own lying eyes? You know, gaslighting, the best way, yeah, I mean, we've been over gaslighting. You guys know what it is. But if you ever run up on somebody who doesn't know what gaslighting is, refer them to that scene from Outlaw Josie Wales. Senator, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. Simple as that. That is like the most basic definition of gaslighting that I can come up with. You pissing down my back and tell me it's fucking raining. I'm looking right at it, right? I'm looking right at it. Your hand's in the fucking cookie jar. I caught you. You don't get to turn around and tell me that I'm crazy, right? It's one thing to deny it. I mean, you can deny it to my face. Hey, man, I just saw you fucking do it. No, you didn't. I didn't fucking. No, I didn't do that. You didn't see that. But gaslighting is where you go the one further and just like, oh my God, no, that didn't happen. You're insane. There's something wrong with you if you think that's what happened. You know, you saw the sun come up in the east. Oh my God, dude, you're out of your mind. Everybody knows that the sun comes up in the west. That kind of shit. I won't abide gaslighting. Gaslighting has become nearly the exclusive province of the political left, which is one of the reasons why I broke from my... G-Dub can attest to this, and Dennis Weimer as well. For years, I just wouldn't do sides. I will not do sides. I was a Ron Paul guy in 2012. I just rejected the whole idea of sides and teams and, you know, this side versus that side. But, you know, at some juncture right around 2016, the political left completely lost its rudder and went so far in their shift with the Overton window that I just could not, I just couldn't abide the shit anymore. And now one of their favorite tactics is gaslighting. Dude, I have to see this. I'm sorry. A little brief sidebar. I got to check this out. Argued with a liberal recently. She asked if I thought the right was going to act like Kyle Rittenhouse. I replied, more like Chris Kyle. She asked, what's the difference? I said 1,000. G-Dub, right fucking now. You're watching on YouTube, but if you could open a separate window, I want you to send that you just posted, that bite that you just posted, I want you to send that to my Facebook inbox so I can post that to the fan page and hopefully make a meme out of it, because that is fucking brilliant. Well, like Chris. Awesome. So why would we be acting like Chris Kyle, you may say? Yeah, you see how I did that reverse segue to kind of like bring it back in? All right, yeah. So why would we be talking about the right acting like Chris Kyle? Well, because we're tired of being gaslit. And is it gaslit or gaslighted? I can never take. I will not abide being gaslighted. That just sounds pretentious. We're going to go with gaslit. That we are the violent ones. That in the wake of Roe v. Wade, that it will be the Christian right that acts out. Right, because that totally makes sense. They finally get their way politically through nonviolent means, so we're going to celebrate by going out and torching cities, a la George Floyd protest, just to show how appreciative we are to the Supreme Court and totally fulfill exactly what the left has been saying about us for years and years and years and years and years. That's exactly what the right is going to do. No, they're not. But I can tell you what the left has been doing, and this came through courtesy of the Federalist just a few weeks ago. Left-wing violence, and I love how they are at least honest about it. Left-wing violence predictably erupted over the weekend after the Supreme Court's ruling on Roe v. Wade. Literally, they have been going. They have breached the Arizona Capitol. They have torched crisis pregnancy centers, and they have shut down freeways, and they continue to do so. This will continue to go on. I posted this story, and you can find it on the fan page again. Courtesy of the Federalist, pro-abortion demonstrators unleash weekend of arson, vandalism, and insurrection after Dobbs. Now, again, this is dating back a couple of months. But just worth pointing out, when they try to do the gaslighting thing, I like it when they say the quiet part out loud. I can handle the harshness of the honesty. Some guy tweeted back when the January 6th insurrection happened, because we were clear enough to point out that if the left were doing that, you'd be cheering it on. And he actually had the nuts to come out and say, yes, I would be cheering it on because the left is a superior cause. And we you know, again, party over principle, as usual. But in Portland, crowd of 100, and of course, fucking Portland. In Portland, in Los Angeles, shutting down freeways, attacking courthouses, this kind of thing. Just a little reminder, to stop indulging these motherfuckers when they get on the gaslighting that we are the violent extremists and that we are the ones that are out there. When they throw these, right, exactly, troglodytes project. And you've heard me say it before. Feel free to co-opt this one. They got bigger projection issues than a busted IMAX. They will always fucking project that onto the other side. And it's literally as simple as fucking Saul Alinsky. It's textbook Saul Alinsky. For those of you guys who know about Saul Alinsky and the book Rules for Radicals, it's not a matter of we're too stupid to see through our own bullshit, although in a lot of cases that is true. It's literally ordered, you know, by their leftist icons, guys like fucking Saul Alinsky, always push the narrative that the other side is doing that which you yourself are fucking guilty of. Boy, they have taken that to heart, and they have fucking run with it. But again, the pro-abortion demonstrators attacking crisis pregnancy centers is not the example that I wanted to bring up. This is the one that I wanted to bring up, and this is, you guys know how I feel about Ann Coulter. She is my Annie, in the same way that, Amy Coney Barrett is my Amy. in spite of her repeated disappointments in SCOTUS decisions. She will always be my Amy. Ann Coulter has periodically still makes me want to choke the fucking life out of her with that fucking long ass skinny neck of hers, but she will always be my Annie, because her her detestation, her hatred of the political left is as pure as Christ's love, and that by itself endears her to me. In any case, I am subscribed to her on Substack. And let me do a brief sidebar here, since I brought up Substack. Bart, stick to the fucking topic. Stick to the fucking topic. Yeah, I get it. I will. And I will come back to this. But I want to say this about Substack. You have always heard me say, put your money where your rhetoric is. You have consistently heard me say for years and years and years, to vote with your dollar, right? That if you're not willing to put your dollar or your ass behind it, you need to shut the fuck up about it. Whatever it is, across the board. Substack, right? I will say this about Substack. Now, again, we're in an age where you can tailor the entertainment that you bring in. If you want this but not that, you don't have to just give $100 a month to your cable company anymore. You can give $5 to this internet channel. You can give $8 a month to the Daily Wire. You can throw this much at this and this much at that. Substack is a subscription service. A lot of the people that are on Substack, some of the best fucking journalists that you're going to find, are on Substack for literally pennies a day. And I'm not sitting here trying to shill for them, but I'm making a larger statement about the nature of it. You don't have to do what I choose to do and wade through the party propaganda and the 9 miles of bullshit every fucking day. You don't have to do that. You can pick voices that resonate with you, and of course the left would call that, well, you're living in an echo chamber, which is easy for them to say because 90% of mass media is their fucking echo chamber. We step outside to hear some other voices, and again, fuck your echo chamber shit, because like the people that I subscribe to on Substack are people like Glenn Greenwald, people like Matt Taibbi. These people are creatures of the left, okay? My first exposure to Matt Taibbi was when he was writing for Rolling Stone, and I did not like him. One of my former favorite intellectual sparring partners, who now is no longer speaking to me because I'm not, because I don't hate Trump enough. No, that's oversimple. Okay, that's not fair to Scotty. He's no longer speaking to me because I am too far beyond the pale of even what he can tolerate in terms of extremist thinking. But I will always give credit where credit is due, and I owe this to Scotty. He made me do my homework on Taibbi, and I wound up coming to a grudging respect of Matt Taibbi, not just as a writer but as a thinker. But he is a creature of the left in the same sense that Glenn Greenwald is a creature of the left. They are both on Substack because, well, if you don't like it, go create your own platform. We hear that a lot from the left, right? Glenn Greenwald did. He went and created his own platform. And you know what? He got usurped by the leftists that he took on as writers over there. And they basically fucking booted his ass. So now Greenwald, the guy that broke the Edward Snowden story, kind of a big fucking deal, right? He's on Substack. Taibbi is on Substack. My Annie is also on Substack. I got creatures from the left. I got creatures from the right. I respect good writing. I respect wordsmithery, and I respect intellectual honesty. They're not pissing down my back and telling me it's raining. I know who the fuck Ann Coulter is, and I know what the fuck Ann Coulter is about. In the same sense that I know who Glenn Greenwald is, and I know what Glenn Greenwald is about. And I choose to listen to both voices, and I choose to put pennies a day, a few dollars here, a few dollars there. A lot of the guys on Substack you can get for free. Good journalists, by the way, that you can get for free on Substack. But if you really want to dig deeper than what the Ministry of Truth is offering you, or what is being offered on Fox, because that's controlled opposition from the Ministry of Truth at this point, with the possible exception of Tucker Carlson. You better be willing to pay for it. And if it's not worth it to you to throw $4 or $5 a month at a really good writer who is a product of a team that you're not part of, who yet still has his balls and his spine and his critical thinking skills, but who is going to make you think outside of your own fucking boxes, you don't deserve to be part of the discussion. So anyway, Substack. Let me just say that about Substack. So anyway, my Annie on Substack, she brought this one up. Liberals celebrate psycho killer even as they try to take your gun away. How many children of the 80s do we have out there? How many Reagan-era kids? Guys like me, Reagan-era kids, raise your hands, raise your hands. We remember that cold winter's day, less than 2 months after he had taken office. Yes, the specific gaslighting you were going to tell us about. Oh, yeah. Well, don't let me get off track. I was saying the specific gaslighting is that we are violent and that we indulge extremists, right? We give platforms to extremists. We support political violence. So, yeah, that's where I was going with that, Dennis. Again, the violence, that speaks for itself. I mean, very few people with functional brain cells still would reject the idea that the left is the party of political fucking violence at this point. But, you know, they're still out there. But as far as endorsing extremists, get ready for this one, Dennis. You will appreciate it. Liberals celebrate psycho killer even as they try to take your guns away. So all of you Reagan-era kids, we remember that cold winter day, and Reagan had been in office less than 2 months at the time, where he stepped outside of the hotel and pop, 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 and they rushed him into the presidential limousine, and James Brady took one to the head and wasn't quite the same for the rest of his life. Yeah. We all remember, don't we? And we remember that the killer was a fellow by the name of John Hinckley Jr. Now, what a lot of us in the conspiracy movement will remember is that the Hinckleys were long-time old Texas oil money and friends with the Bush family, and that John was sort of the black sheep of that family. Now, the conspiracy guys will remember that part, but let's just leave that out to the side because I don't want to get caught up in that kind of rigmarole right now. But John Hinckley Jr. took a shot at the president. He was committed to a psychiatric hospital. He was guilty, but they did not put him in the penitentiary. And lo and behold, not so very long ago, he was semi-released, more or less a fucking parole. Well, while they are telling us that we are the side that platforms extremists, get this out. John Hinckley's sold-out Brooklyn concert is canceled. What? Wait. John Hinckley's sold-out Brooklyn concert? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, you didn't hear a word about this on mainstream media, did you? The venue cited safety reasons in canceling the performance by Mr. Hinckley, who shot President Reagan and has turned to music since being released from a mental health facility. Yeah, that's right. He took a shot at a president, and now he is walking around free as the breeze out in the world. Now, that would be enough to stick in one's craw. But he's taken up music, and the left, oh my God, they just fucking love him. Why? Because he took a shot at a conservative icon. Why wouldn't they be celebrating him? Well, there's the Market Hotel, and it's this little hipster club there in Brooklyn, and they thought it would be great to have John Hinckley Jr. come there and perform his folk music to the adoration of the throngs of leftists who just love this misunderstood person. How could they crucify him? The man he was trying to kill deserved to die. In any case, this is the brilliance of it. So, U.S. District Judge Paul Friedman, a Clinton appointee, by the way, gave Hinckley an unconditional release on Wednesday, allowing the guy to go on tour. Right now. They were going to put him at this club. He was going to do a live show. And then they had to cancel it. Why did the promoters cancel it? Are you ready for this? This is the projection and the gaslighting. Dennis, since you asked, and Joey, since you commented, this is the projection issue and the gaslighting issue. They were going to platform a man that took a shot at a sitting president. Okay, they were going to let him go on stage and perform his little folk tunes. They were going to celebrate him and his life and his music and his art, right? They canceled the show. They canceled the show because people started complaining, how the fuck are you going to have a guy that took a shot at a fucking sitting president on stage performing folk songs? This is fucked up. And do you want to know what the promoter cited as the reason? Security concerns, because right-wing extremists were protesting the show. There's your projection. There's your fucking gaslighting. They are putting a guy on, platforming. They accuse us of platforming fucking extremists, but they're going to provide a literal platform for a dude that took a shot at a sitting conservative president, right? And then when they have to cancel it because of complaints by the general public, they blame what? Right-wing extremism. Yeah, because only right-wing extremists could look and go, dude, the guy took a shot at a president. What the fuck are you doing putting him on stage? Now, you know me, I do find myself somewhat conflicted because I am a free speech absolutist. I certainly would never allow a government entity to interfere with John Hinckley saying or doing or folk songing, whatever the fuck he wanted to. Ever. Right? If I had a hammer, there wouldn't be any more folk singers, right? Thank you. I wish I knew how to put the musical notes on my fucking text right here. I'd love to do that. Yeah. Right-wing extremists are why they had to shut the show down. Not because thinking American individuals, hardworking men and women, looked and went, dude, this guy took a shot at the president and you're letting him perform fucking folk songs right here in the heart of fucking New York City. But yes, the left, the promoter in particular, was outraged. Yes, in fact, outraged that he had to cancel the show due to right-wing extremists. Speaking of right-wing extremists and people getting canceled, let's move on to Dee Snider, shall we? Yes, we remember. This was the Dee Snider of the 1980s. Come on, we talked about him a little bit in the header, right? This was Dee Snider in fucking 2015. Dee Snider in 2015, less than a year before Donald Trump would win the White House, telling the whole world that he hoped that Trump turned the political establishment on its head. As it turned out, he didn't realize that all of his cohorts in the entertainment industry were going to be the anti-Trump zealots that they turned out to be, and that he would be persona non grata. So, having been a hero, having been an icon for fucking free speech, having been a personal hero to me in my youth and even into my adult life, I cannot take away from him. What he did in terms of the testimony before the Congressional Subcommittee, Parents Music Resource Center, the warning labels when they were trying to ban this, ban that. That was an iconic moment, and it will stand forever. And that is how I choose to remember Dee Snider. What do you mean remember him? He's not dead yet. Well, he's dead to me, right? Dee Snider is absolutely dead to me, and I choose to remember him as the Dee Snider who put that iconic testimony in front of the Congressional Subcommittee, rather than this establishment shill who penned the lyrics to "We're Not Gonna Take It," right? But now has become part of the establishment and resents his anti-establishment song being used against people that he fucking likes. Well, that was inspired by this and that was inspired by that. Bro, you are that now. Like it or not. Again, the left, bigger projection issues than a busted IMAX. But that's where they're at. They don't understand that you cannot be backed by academia, all major media, big tech, and corporations You cannot be backed by these four entities and have them in lockstep with your political ideology and continue with a straight face to call yourself the fucking resistance. You are the system, D. What is that? Die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain? You're the villain now, D. In any case, he threw a fucking fit because, Dee Snider, this was the article from the New York Daily News. Dee Snider hates everything about MAGA fans playing Twisted Sister music. Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake. And if you're not following that race, you should be, and you need to get behind Miss Lake. This was his tweet. Attention QAnon MAGA fascists. Every time you sing We're Not Gonna Take It, remember it was written by a cross-dressing, libtard, tree-hugging half-Jew who hates everything that you stand for. It was you and people like you that inspired every angry word of that song, so fuck off. Okay. How many true conservatives are deeply anti-Semitic? There goes your half-Jew argument. How many true conservatives really give a shit about somebody putting on makeup or even being a legit cross-dresser? Nobody. The libtard thing, yeah, that might bug some people. In any case, it was an anti-establishment anthem. And much like Hurt is no longer Trent Reznor's song after Johnny Cash played it, We're Not Gonna Take It is no longer your song, D, because you are no longer anti-establishment. You are the fucking establishment, pal. That song belongs to us now. Now tell them about the Village People, joked one Twitter user. And again, this is the left, dude. They think that we don't have the fucking self-awareness. What, you think Donald Trump doesn't know that the Village People was an entirely gay band? Right? You think that we're this painfully aware of fucking cultural references? No, man. It's just we're not the hate machines that you guys have made us out to be. It literally is of no fucking consequence to us. But yeah, you have Old School Saul on Twitter. If you think MAGA movement is racist like that, you've been completely duped by leftist propaganda. Have to say. But this was the quote. In 2015, an interview with Dee Snider, he told TMZ that Trump was a good friend. Now, this is 2015, less than a year before Trump would be elected. He said that Trump was a good friend who he hoped would turn the political system on its head. Careful what you wish for, D. He asked Trump to stop playing his music, and Trump apparently acquiesced. Now, that was an interesting development, but other conservative politicians, including Trump supporters, have gone along with that, and they continue to play We're Not Going to Take It at their fucking rallies. Do we care? Do we care? Somebody I don't even want to fucking touch on, really. It was just a bullet point that I had bookmarked. It's just bothersome. It's so fucking bothersome. You know, we're dealing with kids. We'll play the fucking song, man. We'll play the fucking song. If there's any song of any consequence to the Trump campaign that has ever made an impact on me, let's see how far back you guys can remember. 2016, after his acceptance speech. 2016, after his acceptance speech. What song did he walk off stage to? Does anybody remember? Does anybody remember? 2016. No Google cheats, motherfucker. Stop. Clickety click. What did he walk off stage to after he fucking gave his acceptance speech? The Rolling Stones song, if that helps. You can't always get what you want. Bravo, Mr. President. Fucking brilliant. Real quick in the freedom of speech department, and then I'm going to real quick in the COVID narrative department, and then I'm going to get to the two that I really wanted to fucking touch on. One from overseas and one locally. But before we get into that, I'm going to duck back to the days of the COVID cast. A whistleblower went into the Defense Medical Epidemiology Database, DMED, Defense Medical Epidemiology Database, and looked through, and they came to these numbers. It has been said that we live in a post-truth era, okay? And perhaps that is true. Everybody is going to color things through their own lenses. Everybody has their cognitive dissonance. Everybody has their confirmation bias. 99% at the... oh, bro, and I'd love to see that, G-Dub. I think that would be the shit. I think it would be awesome. Well, there's also a Celtic word for the lost, right? Right? The DMED. The DMED stats, they just went in and they used the DMED's own fucking numbers. Now, again, we live in the era of fact-checking, right? We live in the era where most people will go to any news source, no matter which side of the coin you're on. They're going to go to the news source. They're going to hear something that supports what they already pretty much believe for themselves, and they're going to take that and run with it. If you're a lefty, you're going to listen to that Maddow guy, now that the Stelter chick got fired. You're going to go and you're going to listen to Rachel Maddow. You're going to listen to CNN. You're going to listen to MSNBC. You're going to listen to Joy Reid. You're going to watch The Fucking View, whatever. You are going to take their opinion. You are going to call it your own because it plays to your confirmation bias. And God damn it, conservatives, don't act like you're beyond this shit. Real conservatives are, but the pseudo-conservatives, the day-to-day conservative, small c conservative, lowercase c conservative, you're not above it. You do the same fucking thing with OAN. You do the same fucking thing with Fox News. You do the same fucking thing with Newsmax. You do the exact same goddamn thing. You don't check. You don't deliberately expose yourself to have your ideas challenged. You know what I listen to going up that hill to the fucking job site every fucking morning when I did the whole year that I was in Prineville, and you heard me talk about it when I was working the wind farm out in West Texas. I find the NPR station. That's what I listen to in the morning. When I'm on my way to work, I listen to fucking NPR. Why? Because I want to get kicked in the nuts with opinions that I know are not going to jive with my political leanings. Right-leaning conservative, or right-leaning libertarian, or arch-conservative, or alt-right, or right-wing extremist, whatever you choose to assign to me, I know that NPR is not going to be in line with my political leanings, which is why I deliberately expose myself to that, because I want my beliefs fucking challenged, right? I watch CNN for hours at a time. I know. I feel dirty too. But if you are not deliberately having your ideas challenged, then do you even have the right to those ideas? If you're not having your opinions kicked in the face and fucking challenged and turned on their heads, do you even have a right to those opinions? Particularly when they belong to somebody else and they're not even the product of your own critical thinking. But now in the era of fact checkers, right? Now in the era of fact checkers, we've gone even beyond that. Now, these are the numbers. These are the numbers. Since the COVID-19 vaccines have been rolled out, and these are the numbers. You can fact check the numbers, but as you're fact checking the numbers, you're going to have to wade through a shitload of fact checkers that are fact checking the fact checks on your facts. You're really going to have to put on your critical thinking caps. Because the fact checkers have gone through and addressed that. Oh, gee, Mike D, God damn it, I'm glad you made it, man. Same here, bro. Not only that, don't you want to know what the other side is thinking or planning? Goddamn right, brother. Goddamn right. And thanks for coming out, by the way. Here's the kicker. These are the numbers. These are just the numbers, okay? These are the numbers, and I'm just going to give you the numbers. What the fact checkers and what the fact twisters want to do with this, what you choose to do with it, it's the same. I'm just going to give you what the numbers said. Since the rollout of the COVID vaccines, these are the numbers. No one's disputing what the numbers are saying. The numbers themselves are not in dispute. None of the fact checkers, none of the debunkers have looked and said that number is inaccurate, that number is inaccurate, they made that one up, and that one's a total fucking lie. No one has challenged them. These are the numbers. Since the COVID-19 vaccines rolled out, now again, this is DMED, right? So this is Department of Defense. So this is just among the military, right? Largely among the military and military contractors. Since the COVID-19 vaccines got rolled out, there have been increases in these conditions. Are you ready for this? I want you to just take guesses. When I call out the condition, I want you to take a guess in your head, just kind of formulate it. Like when I say hypertension, I want you to think 300% increase, 57% increase, whatever. I'm going to call these out. When you hear me call the condition, plan a little number in your head, and then I'm going to read the actual number. You ready for this? So since they've been rolled out, according to DMED's own fucking numbers, there have been increases in these conditions. You ready? Hypertension, 2,181% increase. Diseases of the nervous system, 1,048% increase. Malignant neoplasms of the esophagus. Okay, you don't need a number for that because most of you can't even pronounce it. You can't pronounce it, but it's up 894%. Multiple sclerosis, up 680%. Malignant neoplasms of digestive organs, another one you can't pronounce, but it's up 624%. Guillain-Barré syndrome, we all heard about that. It's the only neurological side effect that any of the fucking mainstream media will talk about. And that, according to DMED numbers, is up 551%. 487% increase in breast cancer. 472% increase in female infertility, 468% increase in pulmonary embolism, 452% increase in migraines, 437 in ovarian dysfunction, 369 in testicular cancer, and a 302% increase in tachycardia. I'm going to pop that website up. All right. But both Reuters and ScienceBasedMedicine.org and a number of others keep coming out, and the DoD themselves, while they are not denying the numbers and what they indicate. Are you ready for this? All of the fact checkers are on board, and this is the official narrative. Are you ready for the official narrative? What do you suppose? What do you suppose? Out of context, we're misreporting this. Here's where it is. Here's where it is. You ready for this? You ready for this? Underreporting for the previous year. Then when that one quickly got shut down, they went to underreporting from 2016 through 2020. So while all of these are up, they're not really up that much when you take into account how much we underreported the previous 5 years. Underreported. That's the fact check. Yes, these numbers are legit based on the numbers that we have, but these numbers are out of context because for the previous 5 years, we underreported. Let's just open up our liar brains real big. Let's just open up our spin brains real big and just concede that what they are saying is absolutely true. Don't you find that a little disturbing that for 5 years they would underreport by 2,000% things like hypertension, underreport by 1,000% diseases of the nervous system, particularly among the Department of Defense? We're talking about soldiers. We're talking about military contractors. We're talking about diseases among the population that makes our war machine work. So let's just say that those folks at the DOD aren't involved in a cover-up, that they're being 100% on the up and up, 100% legitimate in what they're saying. Does it bother you that for 5 years they underreported by a factor of 7 times things like multiple sclerosis? Does it bother you that for 5 years, for 5 years, by a factor of 5-fold, they underreported things like breast cancer, female infertility, pulmonary embolism, ovarian dysfunction? That for 5 fucking years, they underreported that by a factor of 5 times? Because that's the alternative, folks. If we're going to believe the debunkers and the fact twisters, if we're going to believe that, that means that for 5 fucking years, they underreported all of these symptoms by a factor of 5 to 20. Either way, it doesn't fucking bode well for DMED now, does it? But what's easier to believe? What's really easier to believe? Let's get back to Occam's razor. Because this fucking fact twisting job that they're doing right now with Reuters and what is it? What are they calling themselves? Sciencebasedmedicine.org. This little bit of fact twisting that they're doing right now, this is Occam's razor shaving my balls. Okay? They underreported. Let's just say that they underreported. For 5 years, things like multiple sclerosis, cancer, by a factor of 5 to 20 times. 20 times underreporting for 5 fucking years. What's easier to believe, that that really happened? Or that the numbers are what they fucking are? I can tell you that coming out of Europe, unexpected death, kids up to the age of 14 is up 460 odd % from before the rollout of the vaccines. Literally every day. The fact that sudden adult death syndrome has become part of the cultural discussion, that even mainstream media people are fucking using it now, should be some indicator that something has gone horribly awry. That professional athletes, professional soccer players dropping dead on the fucking field, all these died unexpectedly. Just Google died unexpectedly. See what you fucking come up with. Up 5-fold, 6-fold, sometimes 10-fold. Again, nothing to see here, move along. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about gaslighting. You look at it, something obviously is exactly what the fuck it is. But they will play these games with you and they will tell you that you're crazy. You're crazy to believe this. It's all tinfoil hat until it's declassified. The Quotable Bart, Volume 1. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. It's coming out. Undiagnosed chondritis. Yeah, right. The leading cause of death in Canada is now unknown cause. Really? Mike, do me a favor. Send me a link to that in my inbox. I would love to see it. I mean, like, I don't doubt you at all, obviously, but just send me a link to that, because that that would definitely drive the point home and put a nice little cherry on top, wouldn't it? But the article in Science Based Magazine is not about how this was underreported or that was underreported. It comes back to the same thing. Anti-vaxxers misuse the DMED to demonize COVID-19 vaccines. Again, we're back to that fucking rhetoric. DMed. Well, it's not just us anti-vaxxers, because Senator Ron Johnson sent a letter to Defense Secretary Austin. Has the DoD seen an increase in medical diagnoses among military personnel? Thank God for Ron Johnson and other fucking politicians who are willing to ask the goddamn questions. PolitiFact, PolitiFarce. Numbers were based on faulty data, military spokesperson said. An error in the DMed, Defense Medical Epidemiology database, gave the false impression that there was a huge spike in miscarriages, cancer, and other medical issues. There was no huge spike. It's just for the previous 5 years, we've been underreporting this by a factor of tenfold. That's literally their defense. That's literally their fucking fact check. Not, holy shit, there's been a real spike. No, there's no real spike. It's just for the previous 5 years, we happen to just not notice this tenfold factor of people with cancer. Oopsie. But the grazer's gonna graze, dude. Bongino's really big on that. Watch your fucking fact checkers, because anytime they fucking say something, you have got to fucking fact check the fact checkers. Read between the lines, people. But the two big ones that I wanted to get into, and I'm not going to belabor this one because a lot of you guys aren't even familiar with Alexander Dugin. Particularly you guys that aren't Russophiles, you're not going to be familiar with it. Alexander Dugin is a nationalist philosopher, would be about the best way to put it. A Russian nationalist philosopher. People deride him by referring to him as Putin's brain. I couldn't think of a higher compliment, personally. But that is the way they deride him, you know, in the era of Americans with Ukrainian flags in their fucking profiles. Well, now, as of last week, a Ukrainian terrorist placed a car bomb in Alexander Dugin's vehicle. Dugin was not in the vehicle. His daughter was. His daughter was killed. His daughter Daria was killed in that fucking terrorist act. Now, this is no fucking surprise for all the things that we're treated to about what horrible people the Russian army is, and that Putin's a terrible bloodthirsty dictator and everything like that. You know, people who actually have paid attention since 2014 in Maidan, people who actually think for themselves instead of being spoon-fed by the mainstream media, they know the horrors of fucking Donbass. They know the horrors of what Ukrainian soldiers, including neo-Nazis from the Azov and Tornado battalions, did to Russian civilians in Odessa after fucking Maidan back in 2014. They know the horrors and the atrocities that have fucking been going on. People that think, right, as to be distinguished from people with Ukrainian flags in their fucking profiles. By the way, I want to be abundantly clear on this. I'm going to have my D. Snyder moment right now. If you have a Ukrainian flag in your fucking profile, I want you to turn off this I want you to turn this off right fucking now. Hit the pause button, the stop button, cancel your fucking subscription on YouTube. Get the fuck out of my life. Get the fuck off my page and out of my life. Because you are either aware of the truth of the situation and endorse that shit, or you are literally too fucking dumb to have a conversation with, and either way, I don't have time for you anymore. No exceptions, none. You who's going, oh, he doesn't mean, yes, you. Get the fuck out of my life. Sorry, it's shit is of some personal connection to me. In any case, they blew up the fucking car that he was supposed to be in. And it killed his daughter. That would be bad enough. But I'm going to tell you how fucking... oh, God. The same people that refer to us as conspiracy theorists, let me tell you what's come down the pike in terms of social media. Are you ready for this? From Michael Millerman, the war in Ukraine has created a class of highly influential social media experts whose analysis we might normally simply ignore if their collective reach did not number in the millions, but their latest idea is too odd to overlook. Are you ready for this? Alexander Dugin had his daughter killed. He collaborated with the FSB to have his daughter blown up in order to pin the murder on Ukraine, giving Putin a pretext for an escalation of the war. Camille Galieve. He has a social media following of 350,000, including Bill Kristol, by the way. Bill Kristol is a follower of Camille Galieve. Bill Kristol, wow, he doesn't have any stroke in the mainstream media, does he? He certainly has no fucking influence himself, you neocon fucking shill. The Moscow bureau chief and economic editors of FT, he posted a thread, are you ready for this, arguing that Daria's assassination was an FSB plot designed to pin the blame on Ukraine. Now, he was nice enough to say that Alexander was probably notified about the decision only after it was taken, but, and I quote, if it was the dad who suggested his daughter as a sacrificial animal, I wouldn't be much surprised. Do you know what we were treated to in the mainstream media when they were talking about her death? She was a Russian propagandist. She was a right-wing extremist. She was a voice for Putin. They said everything shy. They said everything shy of she had it coming. It was the way she was dressed. That is what we were treated to by the mainstream media. Right? Right? Well, you know, Tom, and I agree with you there. I don't know if you were around for that one, but I spent the better part of one sermon going into all that. How I am much more disgusted with fucking conservatives in the wake of this Ukraine thing than I am the left. Not just on the intelligence front, Tom, but on the media front. A lot of the problem with conservatives is a lot of them are closet neocons that never met a war that they didn't like, and see enemies where none exist because somebody told them, look over there, a squirrel, and oh good, let's go to war, but their eagerness for conflict can be their own fucking undoing, particularly in situations like Ukraine. Some of the same conservatives that quite correctly spent the last fucking 4 years right, there you go. First of all, as far as Ben Shapiro is concerned, if you are taking investment advice from the Yarmulke elf, hashtag Yarmulke elf, I would question your sensibility. Let media say Putin is ill, then he goes outside shirtless while showing combat skills. They realize they're full of shit and say he's just insane. Yeah, bro. I mean, it never fucking ends. But in this case, conservatives spent 4 fucking years during the COVID epidemic saying quite correctly that the media could not fucking be trusted. That every goddamn word that spewed from their pus-dripping maw was immediately suspect, and they were quite correct in that. But the minute the media started telling us about, oh, Russia's the enemy, Putin's the boogeyman, gotta get behind those people in Ukraine, Slava Ukraini, yeah, fuck yourself. Everybody jumped on the fucking bandwagon. One thing that I will say about conservatives is they are pretty predictable. a lot of conservatives, which is why I can't give myself completely over to that side. They're entirely predictable. You give them a fucking boogeyman and they will take it and fucking run with it. That's how they were able to get people behind the Gulf War. That is how they were able to get people behind the Patriot Act, the surveillance state, and every other wretched fucking executive excess of the Bush junta regime, administration. Sorry, I can never get my words straight. Verizon and Netflix did more to continue the war than Biden. They proved to the Russian people that the West hates them, right? Right? It's an excellent point, Tom. Excellent point. By the way, when you find yourself in Spokane, man, give me plenty of heads up, because we are going to have that cup of coffee, my brother. But this is how far it's gotten. I bring up Alexander Dugin and this whole madness because while the mainstream media might not go so far as to say he gave the nod to having his daughter killed to give the FSB grounds to recommend an escalation in the war, the mainstream media didn't go so far as to say that. But what they did do was basically tote the party line of she had it coming, it was the way she was dressed. She was a mouthpiece for Putin, therefore a Ukrainian terrorist blowing up a fucking car with her in it is not an act of terror, it's an act of self-defense. Since then, it's come out that there is actually a Ukrainian hit list and that she was on it. Fuck Ukraine. Let me just say that absolutely and without equivocation. The Ukrainian people, I'm not talking about the Ukrainian combatants, okay? Because if you have signed on to be a combatant for literally the most corrupt regime in that geopolitical region, you do have it coming because of the way that you're fucking dressed. If you strap on an Azov battalion logo, I hope they gut you. I hope they castrate you alive after they've taken you prisoner. Because this is war, motherfucker. And what you have done, what your regime has done for the last 8 years since Maidan to the Russian, ethnic Russian civilians of Donetsk and Luhansk and Crimea, let alone inside of territorial Ukraine. The things that you have fucking done, you deserve everything that you get. Now the civilians, I feel bad for the Ukrainian civilians. Why? Because they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They're having to suffer the wrath sometimes of their own fucking soldiers. They're prevented from fucking leaving this Ukrainian democracy that we're supposedly defending. Guess what, ass face? Track with me now, Sparky. Zelensky ruled out all opposition political parties. Zelensky took control of all fucking media outlets and made saying anything against his regime a political crime. We're fighting for democracy, Sparky? Stay with me, I'm not done. He just outlawed any union organizing among Ukrainian labor. Ooh. Does that hurt, Lefty? We're not fighting for democracy there. You got sold a fucking bill of goods. We are fighting for Joe Biden's political interest. We are fighting for our cadaver-in-chief who is politically compromised. We are not fighting for fucking democracy. And we are putting the weight and the money of the United States behind a regime responsible for fucked off atrocities that most of you can't even fucking contemplate. So for everyone, including relatives, if you happen to be watching, yes, this applies to you too, who lamented how I could support a murderous dictator at the onset of this fucking thing, catch up or move on. I'm not playing with y'all anymore. And when you have big tech who will censor stories directly relevant to Americans' political well-being and the democratic process, but will entertain ideas that will call us conspiracy theorists for pointing out shit that's since been confirmed, but will entertain this prick saying that Alexander Dugin had his own fucking daughter killed to expand the fucking war in Ukraine. Don't talk to me about truth. Don't talk to me about truth. Don't talk to me about impartiality. And don't talk to me about fucking reach. You're not the resistance when you control the fucking dialogue, Sparky. Big tech controls the truth. Where their Biggie cat, right? Their Castro shirt, or fucking Che, right? Right, Ryan? You're not the resistance. You are the establishment. For the love of God, we are coming for you. And I am going to close on one fucking tip, and I'm not going to do a real deep dive on it because it's already been rehashed backwards, forwards, 6 ways from Sunday. There is nothing that I could tell you about this. There is nothing that I could tell you about this that hasn't already been just done to death in the fucking news media. But the raid in Mar-a-Lago. Taibbi, who you heard me mention before, Greenwald, other voices of the left, they have universally said, and I could not agree more, if they have the goods, then it's huge. But pardon my skepticism after 6 fucking years of, we've got him now. Sorry, I have to say it with that kind of drama because that's how the mainstream media always fucking presents it. We've got him now. What are some of the other great taglines? The walls are closing in. What are some of the other ones? The beginning of the end for the administration. And yet 6 years later, there are no fucking indictments. No fucking arrests. Pardon my skepticism if I think this is all a big load of happy horse shit. He had nuclear secrets. There was classified information that was important to national security. So fucking important that you let him sit on it for over a year and a half, and didn't act on it until just before the midterm elections, but I'm sure that's a coincidence. This in particular, for more than one real-world friend of 10, 15, 20 years or better in some cases, that have said to me with a straight face over the course of the past couple of years, dude, you used to be a free thinker, man. Whatever happened to that part? Now you're just a cultist, bro. To that little sawed-off fucking nothing. All 6 of them. You are swallowing a mainstream media narrative that has been put together for you by a combination of Madison Avenue and the propaganda ministry of a political regime. You are adopting this narrative as your own and parroting it without even the effort to call it into question. And I'm the cultist? I'm the guy whose free thinking is suspect? Check yourself, Sparky. Take a good look. I don't know what they found at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what they were hoping to find at Mar-a-Lago. 15 boxes of something that apparently was very, very important. Again, so fucking important that we had to sign up. The judge that signed off on the warrant was a former lawyer for Epstein. Again, dude, the doublethink abounds. This is just, it's gotten to the point where the inconsistencies and the self-contradiction is on such a level that you can't even keep track of it anymore. Trump was a buddy of Epstein. Okay. which is why he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, which is why a judge who was an attorney for Epstein just signed off on a warrant on specious grounds to have Mar-a-Lago raided. Dude, if Trump was a buddy of Epstein, you know, if there was a shred of evidence, fuck, you don't even need evidence. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the American mainstream media. It would already be all over the place. It would be the lead of fucking every goddamn news story. We are playing with weapons brighter than his son because what? Trump grabbed pussy and called people fat? Right? Thank you. A defense attorney for fucking Epstein. You know, the pedo trafficker to the rich and famous that didn't kill himself in a prison cell where the cameras mysteriously malfunctioned? Okay. A defense attorney for that fucking prick is the guy that wound up being the judge that signed off on this fucking warrant. When they asked for the affidavit, they gave it to us, the redacted version. Have you seen the cartoon on that one? Because it cracks me up. You know what a redacted document is. For those of you that don't know what a redacted document is, it's where the FBI gives you something where they've got like the big black lines over everything that's supposedly too dangerous for you to see. And the one meme that's got the big page of black lines through it and the only words that are visible are orange man bad. That's literally what the affidavit amounted to. They released the redacted version. There are some alleged unredacted versions of the affidavit floating around. I'm more interested in seeing these. What I will say about that is, if you really think this is the walls closing in, the beginning of the end, we've got him now, volume whatever, you're probably a fucking idiot. Assuming they do find or fabricate, and neither is outside the scope of possibility. I'm not saying they don't have something on the motherfucker. I'm saying that after 6 years of we've got him now, I'm a little skeptical. That's what I'm saying. Don't get it twisted. But assuming there is something there, there better be. And it better goddamn well stick. And it better goddamn well be something that's not going to fade out after 2 news cycles after you move on to the next we've got him now. Because I'm going to tell you what the fucking DOJ just did. They have offered evidence to even people who were reluctant to believe it at first. And a lot of people were. They were reluctant to believe that the Department of Justice, even under a fucking shill like Merrick Garland, could be weaponized against the American people. Even though the evidence kept getting dropped in their lap. Even though the Merrick Garland DOJ listed angry parents at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. That wasn't enough to make some people believe it. But boy, they fucking believe it now. Take a look at the fucking polls of people's confidence in the fucking FBI. And let me say, and I want to be abundantly clear on this too. I have friends, personal friends, training partners who I consider friends, and personal friends who I consider like my own flesh and blood, like brothers, who work for the FBI, who work for the federal marshals. Excellent point, Tom. Yeah, these same people that love the FBI now seem to have forgotten about fucking COINTELPRO, but that's another sermon. There are fine agents who continue to work for the FBI. There are fine agents who continue to work for the federal marshals. I would assume that there are fine, I don't know any personally, but I would assume that there are fine people who continue to work for the Capitol Police. There are a lot of fine rank and file boots on the ground individuals in federal law enforcement. But the leadership is entirely corrupt. And the people that are at the helm, Merrick Garland and the higher ranking officers in the fucking DOJ, have become a modern day Gestapo. They are weaponized against the political opponents of the president, this regime, And we all know, let's just fucking say point blank, we all know Biden isn't the one making these calls. You know it, I know it. He doesn't know what planet he's on half the time. But the handlers, the regime. And I think that's how we should make that a talking point. Don't say Biden. Say the regime. Because this administration, whoever is helming it, is acting like a regime now. And the Department of Justice is their fucking Gestapo. Now, if this Mar-a-Lago raid winds up being a bulwark in the investigation and the one key that we've all been waiting on for you otherwise intelligent people out there, you OIPs. Well, it's good that they're taking so long. It's good that they're taking... Dude, you want to talk about fucking brainwashing? No, it's good that it's taking them 6 years, dude. No, and see, Joey, that's what you don't understand. It's good that they take... It's good that it's taken 6 years, man. It means they're taking their time and they're being thorough. Okay. Let's just concede that. You're a fucking moron, but just for the sake of discussion, I'm going to concede it for a minute. If this winds up being the linchpin it's all hung on, I'll gladly concede. But you just had agents of the top federal law enforcement agency going. Raid the home, not the office, not the tower, not the property owned by, like one of the hotels, the home of a former sitting president, over what at this point amounts to a request from the National Archives. I don't deify the man, but if Trump had goddamn won that election and sent the FBI, he had 4 years. Okay, let's examine this for a minute, because one of the first protestations of Darth Cheeto when this all fucking rolled was that Obama still has cases and cases and cases of shit for the fucking National Archives, some of which is national security sensitive. Imagine if Trump, 2 years in, wasn't doing well politically and sent the FBI to hit Obama's house or Clinton's, their house. How would you, fawning faithful, have reacted to that? You would have seen it as him being the Hitler that you've been telling us for 6 years that the man is. I've seen no evidence of that. Trump as Hitler, I've seen zero evidence of. Yep. Which is why they're terrified of him being reelected. Right? Well, Groomer seems to sit pretty badly with him too, Mike. But this is where we're at. You've heard me say it before, that we're in a war and only one side has acknowledged that we're even in a war. And certainly only one side is fighting. But this one is shaking them off the fence. And we are headed into the midterms, guys. And you have heard me say this consistently now since 2020. Midterms are what's going to make the decision for me. How things proceed in the midterms, how much, it's not a question of will there be malfeasance, it's how much will there be and how successful will it be. But you party over principle motherfuckers that are just going to be fawning faithful to the regime in spite of the fact of the things that they're doing. Come here, Sparky. Come real close. I want you to track very closely on this with me, okay? When the Bush junta, the Bush regime was in power, and they used their newly granted police state powers under the Patriot Act to spy on U.S. citizens
and to a lesser degree than this junta, their political opponents, their political opposition, I raged against that shit for 8 years. You will find no friend of the George W. Bush administration in me, even if you will, among leftists, including celebrity friends of mine, who are suddenly best buds with these folks because, oh shucks, George Bush is just a nice old guy. People on the left that I know, people on the left that I don't, that can suddenly get behind one of the Cheney clan because they hate the big bad orange guy. There is no principle on the left. I hated Bush then. I hated Cheney then. I continue to hate them. They are my sworn enemies. They are enemies of liberty. They are enemies of the Constitution. And I will say this without a shred of exaggeration or hyperbole, they are fucking war criminals. There. See how easy that was? So don't think that I'm going to spend that many years and that much intensity raging against the excesses of one regime, one junta, and its egregious overreaches against the Constitution, just to roll over and play dead and act like we can all be pals now that the other team is in charge. You either stand on principle or you do fucking not. You are either in favor of the sovereignty of the individual or you are fucking not. You either have one standard across the board, regardless of who is in flagrant defiance of a fucking law, or you do not. And in the final analysis going forward, no matter what comes of this Mar-a-Lago raid, let's just leave it aside. You will either stand with the American people, the sovereignty of the individual among the American people, the rule of law, and the Constitution of the United States, or you will fucking not. And based on your choices of all of the above, I will either have room for you in my heart, in my mind, and at my table, or I will fucking not. The time for middle ground is over. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. I'm back, motherfuckers. Feels pretty good to be here. Feels pretty good to get all that off of my chest. We're a little unstructured this week, but I expected that. It's been a month. I got to shake off the ring rust. I got to get a little more coffee in my system right now. I got to get my ass back upstairs and handle my fucking business. If anything that I said was of any consequence, improved, changed your life or your worldview in any fucking way, I would love to hear about it. I'm going to pass around that digital collection plate because I am the Reverend and that is the gospel, and we are going to pass the collection plate around like we do. We don't have the full soundtrack here because, again, I'm in transition. I'm using a different computer this week, but we're still going to end with a little bit of Clutch. Won't be Fortunate Son. We'll kick you a little Elephant Riders, man. You guys know all about that.
Reverend Bart, the metal hipster. Love you, brother. Hey, sis, how you doing? Glad you made it. Nancy, check out the replay, because if you're just now showing up, you missed some great shit. I've been out for a month, but I'm back. Anyway, passing that digital collection plate around. If you guys dig what I have to offer, you want to kick me a little coin? Dude, I'm on PayPal, I'm on Venmo, I'm on Zelle, I'm on Facebook Pay. I'm on every goddamn thing, man. If you want to toss me a little bit of coin, that would be cool. I'm totally all right with that. It's a labor of love, but every little bit helps. Plus, I'm out of work for a little bit, so, whatever you can toss. In any case, if you are not of means, if you are a victim of the Biden economy, shall we say, I totally get that, man. I totally get that. If you can't throw any coin, or, fuck you, I'm just not throwing any coin on principle. Hey, man, stand on principle. I can get that. Here's what you can do for me. You can spread the gospel yourself, man. You can post this up, either the live or the replay. Send a link on your own social media. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, and guys, we're on 5 fucking platforms now. We're on Facebook Live, we're on Twitter, and on YouTube. Those 3 channels we go live, and we've got the replay on BitChute and fucking Rumble over there with Bongino and company now. That's a nice little bonus. As soon as I can figure out how to live stream over on BitChute and Rumble, we're going to be live on 5. That is the goal, live on 5. Looking forward to that. But anyway, post a link, share it with your friends. Appreciate that, Wayne. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. And of course, Carrie and Roman, thank you so much. You guys pass that along. Post it on your own social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever you're on. Say, hey, man, every Sunday, this fat, toothless cripple, Dollar Store Alex Jones, here's one I had to bring out of retirement, crane operator with some opinions, Dollar Store Alex Jones, fat, toothless cripple. He gets on every Sunday, and he rants and raves for a couple of hours, and I think you're a kindred spirit and a like mind, you might dig it. Check him out. So spread the gospel that way. But here's what you got to do for me. Not just for me, but for yourselves. That primarily for yourselves. I didn't even think about, I should be an afterthought here, man. Here's what you got to do. Pay attention to the directives, guys, the prime directives. And you guys know these directives. I know Mike knows, right? You got to think about the directives, guys. They are going to try to bury you. They are going to try to demoralize you, to dehumanize you. You got to stay ahead of the curve, right? You got to be that signal. They're going to try to bury you in the noise, man. You got to be the signal that breaks through that noise. They're going to try to bury you in the darkness, man. You've got to be that light in that world full of darkness. Don't let them break your spirit down. You got to keep moving forward. But more important than anything else, says the guy that hasn't been able to lift for over a month now, you got to be that strength, man. You have to be that strength in a world full of weakness. Because without the strength, none of the other part matters, man. None of the other bit matters the least little bit. You got to have that strength in a world full of weakness. Signal out the noise, light in the darkness, strength over weakness. I am the Reverend. I appreciate you guys being here. Love each and every one of you, man. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Be back in a week. See you next Sunday. Love you guys, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for the outpouring of support, man. Love you guys. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. We are out. Peace. Later.